And I see we have a quorum, so I will call the meeting of the City Council of the City of Hillsboro to order. First item up on the agenda is approval of our consent agenda. So B1 is minutes from our 12/7/2021 meeting. Did everyone receive copies of the minutes? Were there any questions, corrections, or comments regarding the minutes? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Lowen seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is vouchers totaling $306,413.37. Did everyone receive copies of the vouchers? Were there any questions or comments regarding the vouchers? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the vouchers for payment. Councilman McCarty moves. Is there a second? Seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now move into our public comment section. And Mr. Stiles.
Yeah, we just have Richard Oster on the line, and I'm sure he's here to talk about our town development agreement. But if you want to jump in now, you're welcome to, Richard. And if you have Blake here, or you want to jump in? Okay, fair enough. Everybody else, I think Andrew's here. Hi, Andrew. How are you? Then we have our friends in the media. So
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll move on from our first public comment opportunity into our business section. And first item up is Ordinance 1339, amending water rates. Mr. Stiles.
thank you, sir. So we have 1339 here. We talked about this at our November 16th meeting. Kind of went through some of the issues behind that, the raw water rate, of course, increasing, and then also the issues we've had with the blue-green algae and kind of how we spread those costs over a 12-month period versus the 3 months that we normally see that we have dealt with it over the summer, which of course is our high production time. So the result there is a proposed increase of $1.13 per 1,000 gallons, which is a 23% increase on the consumption. As far as a percentage-wise increase, it would just basically, we have a flat rate system right now, so there's no difference between commercial, there's no difference between residential, there's no conservation tiers or anything like that. So that's what it does. It just amends everything on that. The base charge will continue to be $29 a month, which is we didn't mess with that since this is all related to consumption side kind of issues. So that's if you guys were to approve this, it would move it up to $29 per month and $605 per 1,000 gallons, and that rate would take effect on the next billing cycle. So it would be the rates. It would be the bills that people got in February. Rate modeling indicates about $100,000 additional revenue. And that pretty well goes to taking care of the blue-green algae issue, and of course the raw water rate, which if you noticed it's actually we made the first bill in the appropriations or the vouchers today for the first payment on the new contract. So that ends up being part of that too, $68,000, I believe. So that's what it is. If we have open to any questions or anything like that.
I think you did some math on the average user previously. I don't know if you have that
Yeah,
available just to again go through that.
Look at that. Sorry. So the impact, what we did is looked at a couple different scenarios. A single person averages about 2,200 gallons a year, or 2,200 gallons a month, excuse me. That would be about $450, a little short of $29.50 for an entire year. So a little over 30, not quite $30 for that for a single person. Typical 5-person family that doesn't do any lawn irrigation is about 5,700 gallons per month. So that increase would be about $6.44. And when you add that up, it's a little over $77 a year. You talk about the commercial accounts, that changes quite a bit. Tabor's our biggest commercial account, and theirs was, I don't have it right in front of me here. Theirs would be the biggest impact. I can't remember what the exact number is. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me on this report, but theirs was the biggest impact. But from a individual perspective and from a family perspective, it's somewhere between that $250 a month and $650 a month for the average family.
You know, you hate to have to do it, especially during this time, but you know, the circumstances are there's really not much we can do about it. I mean, this rate increase was something that was really out of our control in terms of cost of raw water, and then the additional costs we've had of treating blue-green algae, which the state or federal government hasn't really still to this day got a good understanding of how to address blue-green algae. So unfortunately, it's just something we're going to have to keep doing. But again, as I may have mentioned when we discussed this the first time, when we were at our League of Kansas Municipalities annual conference, and we were listening to communities in Western Kansas like Hayes and Garden City talking about water scarcity, where they didn't even have water, you know, available for expansion of their communities. You know, they wanted to expand, bring in new businesses, but if they required a lot of water, they were pretty limited in what they could do in terms of addressing that. So, you know, I guess on that side of it, you know, we need to feel pretty good. And again, to the foresight of previous councils that made sure that our water department was in good shape on the treatment side of things, that we have the ability and the right equipment in place and the capacity, you know, more than enough capacity to handle the needs of our water going forward. So again, would like to thank my predecessor and those previous councils for making those important decisions back then. But you know, this is another important one we're going to have to make, and you know, I think for everybody's betterment, we need to make it. That's where I'm at. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve Ordinance 1339, amending water rates.
So moved.
Councilman Driggers moves. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman McCarty seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll poll the council. Councilman Gearing?
Yes.
Councilman McCarty? Councilman Lowen?
Yes.
Councilman Driggers?
Yes.
Ordinance 1339 is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Second item up for business today is consideration of Peabody water rates. Since we're on water rates, Mr. Stiles?
Thank you, sir. So one of the things, one of our customers, we have a wholesale customer, City of Peabody. They have a water rate agreement that we've signed with them back in 1999. We've only amended the rate on that one time in 2014. And so their rate, because they have a raw water contract with the state, just like we do, they pay us $1.85 per 1,000 gallons, which is kind of what we've computed as the cost to treat their water. One of the treatment costs. And then, of course, they buy it from us and it's distributed to their tower. And then from their tower, it picks up and it's their responsibility to distribute it to their customers. So right now, the rate we have is $1.85 per 1,000 gallons for the first 50 million gallons. And then, you know, it jumps up to $2 for every 1,000 after that. That takes into account our old raw water rate. Because if they go over their 50 million gallons, then it comes into our allocation. And so they're paying for our raw water rate at that point. So 83% of the rate increase that we just, or 83 cents of the rate increase that we just passed is related to treatment of the blue-green algae. They have the same treatment costs, and so what we would suggest today is to increase their purchase contract by that same 83 cents to accommodate the treatment that they're getting to in addition to this. So applying that same rate to them, it would be $2.68 per 1,000 gallons up to 50 million. And then anything above that volume would move to $3.13, which would include our raw water costs, which are now much higher than the 15 cents previously. So based on the addendum, the last addendum to the contract we signed back in 2014, we don't have to do any additional addendums to the contract. We simply have to notify them of their rate change. We have to do so before June 15th or June of each year. So it's a situation where we're recommending that you do something similar to the same rate increase that we did for our users to Peabody as a commercial or a wholesale user. So that 83 cents we passed on to them. And just to give you kind of a point of reference, they don't typically use the 50 million gallons. This last year was actually one of their higher years, and they were up to 45 million. Typical year for them has been about 31. They had a lot of issues with distribution leaks last year, this year, I guess I should say. So we had a lot of issues at the tower, and they ended up with a lot of water that they probably wouldn't have normally used getting pulled through their meters. So that's what we're asking for in order to do the rate change for them. We simply just have to approve that, take action as a city council, and then we send them a notification, which is what we've attached here. So that's what we're asking for today, and I'd answer any questions. Oh, I would say that we also talked, Morgan Marler, our water and sewer superintendent, and I met with their water committee, which consists of 3 other members of the city council, or 2 members of the council and mayor. We met with them on December 9th and to talk about some other issues, but we also talked about this, that we were considering doing a rate increase. So this is not the first that they've heard of it. They knew something was coming. So I'd answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Obviously, we're not asking any more of them than we're asking of our citizens. So
No.
I think that's more than fair. And, you know, we've certainly been there to support them, you know, through their issues. I mean, to the extent that, you know, we've had to talk about that a little bit with them as well. But I feel like this is more than justified. And at this point, I would ask for a motion to approve the increasing water rates to Peabody, Kansas.
I'll make a motion.
Councilman McCarty moves.
Second.
Councilman Lowen seconds. Is there any further discussion?
Just so we're clear, can we state in the motion what the rate is? So it's not, there's no confusion as to what
Okay.
that is.
So the motion will include the rates to be
$2.68 per 1,000 gallons for up to 50 million gallons, and $3.13 per 1,000 gallons up to above the 50 million gallon, a 50 million gallon allotment, excuse me.
Are you comfortable with your motion being amended accordingly?
Yes, I am.
And your second stands?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we will ask for a voice vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have now item 3, which is the proposal from Torrey Brothers for pool recoding. Mr. Stiles.
Thank you, sir. So we had talked at the last, or maybe 2 meetings ago, about pool coating. We need to get in line to get that done. It has to happen about every 7 to 8 years, and this is the end of year 7, so we're right on track with that. We did solicit a second bid from another company, the company that actually installed the pool originally. They never provided that to us. We harassed them several times, and they still wouldn't provide it to our people. So we've actively sought other bids, but we've only got the one. which I, always like to have more than one, but based on kind of the previous performance of Torrey Brothers and the recommendations, they come recommended from the City of McPherson, City of Salina, Council Grove also used them too recently. So everybody's been pretty pleased with their product, excuse me. And one of the unique things with them that we've found is they have a 3-year warranty and do annual inspections, which is nice. That's something that you don't see a lot. So we're asking to move forward on the Torrey Brothers construction project, $34,900. I would note that the 22 budget for the aquatic center included $125,000 for capital improvements. So this is one of the things that we knew we were having to do next year. So,
Any questions? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve the proposal from Torrey Brothers for pool recoating.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Gehring moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Driggers seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, item 4, Our Town Development Initiatives LLC agreement. Mr. Stiles.
thank you, sir. So this is another thing we talked about, I think previously at last meeting, I believe. So our Town Development Initiative, it's a group that is doing some moving into the consulting business to help small towns. And so what we've got proposed here with them is an agreement where we would get about 10 hours a month for $1,500 to help move some of our bigger projects forward, specifically thinking about how we use the hospital, how we use AMPI. We've got a couple other projects that are sort of in the mix. Things that we seem to have trouble moving forward, and they have specific expertise. Al Votes is one of the main people with that, and then Richard Oster, who's on the call today, also is the second primary with that. They've got a ton of experience, and it's kind of a new venture for them, but I feel pretty positive based on our conversations with them over the past 6 months that we can fill their plate with things to do. I think they can really help us with housing too, is one of the things that we've talked extensively about. They just provide a different skill set and a different frame of reference, a lot of different connections that we don't have. I think they would be a pretty powerful ally to move some of these projects forward. The proposed contract's $18,000 with expenses, and so what we would do is take that out of the industrial fund, which we have. That's where our economic development things happen. We do have some money budgeted in there for some projects and some additional expenses that we can reallocate some things and make that work from a financial perspective. Sort of the ins and outs of the agreement. It has a 30-day cancellation. So for some reason we decide in March or February that this isn't working like we thought it was, we can give them 30 days notification and be out of the agreement. So it's one of those things that we've kind of worked through it and talked through this agreement. There's also some things that came in late today, some suggested verbiage changes, but we'll bring those back to the council once we kind of hammer through that. It doesn't seem to be material to me, but we'll want to talk a little bit more with Andrew about that. And then
Could we have it on the agenda for our special meeting?
yeah, we could, if that's what you want to do. We could.
I'd like to get that. I'd like to have us get that done this
Sure.
year if we
Yeah.
can, so that we can start right off the bat next year, hit the ground running.
Sure.
Just a little background maybe on how this all developed. This all started, and I'd also like to give Richard an opportunity to speak, but to start off with this all started from a conversation that I got a phone call from Al Votes, and Al was concerned about or had some questions regarding a bid for rock crushing that we let. And that led to a meeting with Matt and I, and Anthony Roy, I believe, was in attendance. And we started talking about a lot of different projects, and Al started talking about, his obvious expertise in the construction arena, and, how he liked to give his customers, extra value added service, that maybe some of his competitors didn't do, in terms of helping people understand the scope of a project before they get started into it, and kind of help navigate them through. And I started thinking about how we utilize EBH engineering, you know, for our infrastructure, for streets, for civil engineering projects. And because we obviously don't have that expertise in-house to do that. I mean, there's some larger cities that obviously have their own engineering staffs. We're not one of them. And I got to thinking, you know, there's so many things that are not street, not water, not electric, utility related that that we're engaged in, and certainly as we looked at our strategic plan that we had put together, and we talk about childcare, housing, and workforce, you know, and how important the housing component of that is right now. It just got me thinking, and I started challenging Al a little bit, and I said, well, why don't you start up a company that would actually do consulting for cities of like Hillsboro that could help us navigate our way along through this stuff, because we not only have construction things like our future public safety, fire department, police department projects that we have looming ahead of us, but we have some deconstruction projects, you know, that we're looking at as well. And so, you know, it just seemed like, you know, the contacts that Richard and Al have and in the construction and housing arena, you know, could be invaluable. So little did I know that that from that conversation till now, Richard and Al have formed their company, which is called Our Town Development Initiatives. Al has sold his interests in boats construction, so he's out of the construction business. And Richard, I will let him speak to his own background, but it's a fairly impressive resume that he has in terms of business and experiences, both in the state of Kansas and outside the state of Kansas. So, you know, I'm really excited about this. I think this is something that can really help us get a jump start again over some of our over some other places. And to be honest, I kind of wanted to be first in line. And as I told Richard and Al, I said, you know, if I can be first, then, you know, hopefully that'll make me first among equals as well. You know, first in your hearts, you know, first on the board. So, but I think there's a lot that they bring to the table and a lot of experience and value beyond the amount that we're talking about paying them. You know, I think we're getting a deal is what I'm trying to say. So I'm very excited about it, and I hope that you'll see your way through to when we get this agreement finally hammered out, that we can execute it and move forward into next year. As Matt said, if we find out it wasn't a good idea, you know, we can step back from it, but I don't think that's what we're going to find. I think we're going to find out that it's a very good deal and that it'll help us get jump started in some areas that we really need some help with. So with that, Richard, would you like to chime in? Can you pull Richard up?
Can you hear me?
A little
Can you hear me?
more
Hello?
visible. There he is.
Am I visible? Can you hear me?
Now we just need his.
We're not getting your audio, Richard.
Yeah, I could be technologically.
Oh, I think you're muted. Hold on, let me
try that.
We've got you
Can you
unmuted.
see?
I can't hear you though.
Hmm.
We're not getting it through the room.
Well, then I have a lot to say.
No.
No.
Nope.
Hold on a minute. Let me see
Got
if I got
audio.
everything.
Hold on a second.
Hold on, Richard.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm showing I'm getting it, so I don't know.
Can't hear me?
Now we can hear you a little bit.
Okay. See. How about now? Can you hear me now?
No.
Nope.
Well, Danielle can hear, so we can hear. Something in here is not working right.
I have a Bluetooth earplug. Try it. Maybe unhook that.
Okay.
I thought I heard him once.
Yeah, I'm showing I've got it, but I'm not hearing it at all.
Interesting. Wow.
Make sure I've got everything here.
about now? Can you hear me now? Hello? Well, this is unfortunate.
Try again, Richard.
How about now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
There we go.
All right.
We gotcha.
Well, this is an unexpected treat. I actually watched your last couple, or at least the last meeting that you have recorded. I found your stuff out on site, which is interesting, trying to get to know you guys a little bit better. And then I thought I'd just listen again tonight to see what you all were about. And now you got me involved in the meeting.
Yeah. Well, if
good.
you show up, that's what you get.
I guess so, that's sort of what I do, I guess, as I show up. Yeah, so anyway, thank you for your kind words there, Mayor. My name is Rich Oster. I think you all probably know Al a lot better than you know me. I've lived in Kansas, I guess, for 4 years now. And I've got involved with Al in a couple of different projects that he had. I helped him get his 2 construction businesses, squared away and understood, and then helped him get those sold. And that's how Al and I got together. And as Lou said, Al started thinking about what am I going to do with myself now, and see he had this idea about municipalities and see what we could do to help them, and asked me if I could do something with them. So I've been retired for about 14 years and do some consulting work along the way. And I thought, well, as long as it's fun and productive and it's helpful, that's why not excuse me, do that. In terms of my background, I did retire about 15 years ago when I exited the public life. I was the chief financial officer of an aircraft leasing company in San Francisco. We had assets when I exited the company. We just sold the company for a transaction valued at about $5.2 billion. Prior to aircraft leasing, I worked in the maritime industry as a CFO, chief administrative officer, for a maritime company headquartered in San Francisco. We did about $1.2 billion in revenue a year, had about 5,000 employees worldwide. And again, had assets probably in excess of $5 billion there. I think my direct organization was about 350 people. So we had operations all over the world, Central, South America, over in the Far East, Middle East. So I've gotten to travel extensively and see other cultures and see how things work. And so I do have a broad array of background and skills, not just on the finance side of the house, but the administrative side of the house as well. I've run material shop, I run HR, IT, those kinds of things. So I do have a broad range of arrows in my quiver that I can bring to the table. Since I retired, I think 14, 15 years ago, I've been doing some consulting work. During that time, I've had some fun projects. I actually ran a winery in Napa for a year and a half, which was a lot of fun, and drank a lot of wine and experienced that. I ran a golf course in Reno for about a year and a half, and I led an effort to take the golf course over from the developer who developed the golf course. They were losing about $700,000-800,000 a year, and I got those turned around and break even, started making a little money, built a clubhouse and exited that. Had some fun projects down in the Dominican Republic and New York State raising water and so forth. So I think I served on the board here at Safe Hope, which is a nonprofit sexual assault, domestic violence entity here in Newton. So so I'm sort of established here as a Kansas resident and good friends with Al. He and I played pickleball. I don't know if you guys can see me, but I still have my pickleball stuff on from today, which was fun. So, and talking with Lou and Matt, I got excited. I really appreciate your guys' enthusiasm and wanting to move the ball forward. I've looked at the strategic plan, and obviously have some thoughts along those lines. And I know Al and I spent some time looking at the hospital and some of your deconstruction projects early on. And so Al and I just want to have a little fun with this. And I think as long as we can help, we will help. We're not here to break the bank. We're not here to charge you guys a whole bunch of money. And what we want to do is participate and I think is our name that we came up with for our little business venture, he and I. Our town is how we feel about participating with you guys. We want it to be your town. We want it to be our town. And to the extent that we can contribute and make things better, we'll do that. And, as Matt said, there's 30 days out. So if you get tired of us pretty quick, you can just kick us out. No harm, no foul, and we'll still be friends and still come to Hillsboro and enjoy your little town.
Well, thank you much, Rich. We appreciate it. And again, Matt and I have been participating in some state training that the economic Department of Economic Development.
Office of Rural Opportunity.
There you go. Office of Rural Opportunity has been putting on. And and then I also sat through the state presentation on their own housing assessment study, housing assessment tool that they did. And there are so many things that if you start thinking about it, you can easily get overwhelmed. And, in some of the correspondence that I've had with Rich and Al is, we want to get this agreement hammered out and make all the attorneys as happy as we can make them. But at the end of the day, it's get a priority list together, get focused, and get working on things that are going to make a difference. And that's really what this is all about. So again, I couldn't be personally more excited about it and feel like that it's a wonderful opportunity for Hillsboro. I don't think there's anybody else out there, especially with the horsepower that these two gentlemen bring to the table, that I think we're going to be a leg up in this process pretty quickly with their using their services. So I'll stop selling now and ask if there are any questions for Matt or for myself or for Rich.
Just one more thing before you get on. I do have to, for full disclosure, I'm a Tar Heel. I went to the University of North Carolina. I saw that. they're on TV tonight. They're playing. So yeah. So I did go to school at North Carolina, where I got my undergraduate degree. I went to Rutgers, got my master's degree, business administration there, and also spent some time in public accounting and got my certificate working in Cooper's Library in New York City. So I said I got a broad range of experience, a lot of background, and I still have some mental acumen. I think I can help you guys out.
So I'd have a question. I like everything you guys are talking about and the idea. More maybe of a management question, Matt. If we don't have something that requires the 10 hours, how are we going to manage like using those 10 hours each month? And I don't see anything in the contract of like any rollover
or anything like that. Yeah, I think we'll have to work with Rich and Al and kind of figure out what works best for tracking that. We haven't established exactly how we're going to do that, but I think that they're pretty flexible, at least based on our conversations, that, there may be some months where it's a little bit more and some months a little less.
I could easily see like 1 month needing 5 and the next month needing 15. If that's flexible, then that's pretty easy to manage.
I think that's probably the case. Just, I don't want to speak for them, but I think that's kind of how we've interpreted that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. That we're pretty flexible. When I was doing work for Al, he was paying me for a certain number of hours a month, and so just every month would report on the hours and give the cumulative hours and look at the over and under, and then we would adjust our agreement basis the hours put in. I will say that he got the benefit of a lot more effort than what he compensated for. So I don't envision that being an issue at all. I say, well, flexible. We'll do whatever works for you and works for us. Yeah, so we'll just work through that. That shouldn't be an issue. And if it gets out of hand, we'll raise our hand. You can guys raise your hand. We can either adjust the contract or look at a different way to approach it, or just, you can always kick us out the door too. So we want to make sure that you're getting the benefit of your bargain. And I can personally commit that that'll happen for sure.
I personally think that we're going to probably start off, we won't have any trouble. Filling the 10 hours to begin with, and then we'll see how it goes. But there are so many things, when we think about going back to our strategic plan, and then really there's so many balls that need to be in the air and moving and stuff, that I just see a hard time finding us not able to utilize those 10 hours, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Any other questions from the council? Okay. Well, Rich, thanks for being on the call, and thanks for being willing to speak up, without me warning you ahead of time. So I appreciate that.
You bet. I appreciate y'all as well. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we will see if we can't get the legalese part of it ironed out, and we have a special meeting next Tuesday at 4 PM that we're wrapping up some budget, budget reconciliation stuff. And it's not going to be a very long meeting, but if we can get this wrapped up for then, I'd like to see if we could get it executed before the time runs out in 2021.
Yeah, I don't see any reason we can't do that. I always thought, left the lawyers, we'd never get a deal done. So we'll get it figured out. And yeah, it's just, and the issues that we raised, I think I think Matt would agree, not very material issues. We just got to
No,
dot the I's and cross T's basically, and go on with it. So yeah.
I get it. I get it. Well, again, thanks, Rich. Appreciate you being here, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you all, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yep, you will. Thank you. Okay. Next item up on the agenda is City Administrator's Report. Mr. Stiles.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I have a ton of stuff today. It's been real busy. So I want to just recap kind of the windstorm stuff from last week. Had a little bit of damage. We got Roofing Unlimited out of Newton coming to look at our roofs. We lost some shingles, especially on the west side of town on the rec buildings, but nothing really real bad. We also had some a back windshield at one of the street vehicles got blown out, and some other damage to some windshield. We actually recorded at the weather station at the rec facility an 89-mile-an-hour gust, which is pretty high. And we were in the 40 to 50 range. Lost power for about 10 minutes, but our guys got that back up and running. It was an issue at the substation, so we're not quite sure if that was something on our side or if it's an Evergy thing. But thankfully, our guys were able to get that up and running pretty quick, so we really didn't lose power for very long. Just thankful that they were able to do that and we were able to get going. So it was good. Overall, it was a good experience compared to what it could have been. And I know some other places had a lot more damage than we did. So we're very thankful for that. Jumping off the energy issue, we had a meeting with Evergy with our staff, and KPP came and helped us with that too. They're building that Jade substation, and so we had kind of a going over some of the details for that. They've changed it a little bit since the last time we've talked about it as a group. We had talked previously about where they would put their meter for us, and that was a little bit further north than where they're actually going to do it. So it actually ends up working out a little bit better for us. We'll also have some pole work over on 3rd and Adams, which it's kind of, if you've been there, it's kind of a mess. But they're going to clean that up a little bit too. And so we'll just be responsible for putting up some reconductor on that, picking up from the meter and bringing it back over to the substation, our transfer station. And so that'll actually, I think, be a little bit less than what we talked about previously. And that will give us a 12 kV backup. So if we have to take down the substation for maintenance for some other reason, we can backfeed and feed the entire community without having to take it offline. So that's a really good deal. And for the amount we're going to end up paying for it, about $50,000 or $60,000, and that'll be a great deal. We'll be able to do some of that work ourselves, and we may actually be able to reuse some of their conductor that they're taking down. So might be even better yet. And so kind of the timeline with that, Evergy, of course, is doing work over there now. You can see them over there south of the industrial park there. Kind of see them doing some work. They're actually going to have a bid letting for their construction piece of this project on February 1st. They're anticipating construction to start April 1 and then finishing up sometime in September. So that'll be a nice improvement. It'll be a really nice improvement for everybody, especially folks on the industrial side of it, which is fed by Evergy, not us. They're not our customers. I think they'll be really happy with how that turns out. So that's the projects moving forward. We're real happy to work with them. Splash Park equipment, want everybody to know that that's been delivered. We actually have that in our hands now, which is wonderful and much delayed. Also working with potential installers, so we'll have some of that. Of course, that project is still 100% funded by money that's been raised. We don't have a dollar in it yet. We probably will likely have some dollars in it at the end of the day, but it won't be near what's been put out in it. So they continue to do some more fundraising for it too. So we're looking forward to having that. And we're looking at a late May, probably opening, kind of open those usually when the pool opens around Labor Day, maybe a little before, depends on the weather. The 128 South Main Building, I'm happy to report that we actually took possession of that today. Signed all the papers for that, and we're getting the company in there to do the asbestos testing. Based on what I heard from the previous time that we've gone kind of through this cycle, it tested negative for asbestos, but they still have to do it again, which will be great. That'll save us a lot of money. But then we'll get a demolition proposal out in front of everybody and hope to get that done maybe in January. We'll see kind of how the contractor goes with that. Had a ransom meeting scheduled for Monday. That ended up happening. We had to reschedule that. But there's a lot of grant opportunities out there in the new funding bill that's come through Congress. And so there's a lot of money in a lot of interesting places. And so we want to be able to be prepared to act on that if we have an opportunity to get into that. And so we are going to meet with Ransom because they've done a pretty good job in the past with grant management and finding other things. So also pleased to announce that we've hired a new police officer. Peyton Heidebrecht will fill that position. He's from Marion originally, worked at the jail, is currently working in Rose Hill. And so he's a KLETC certified. He's a certified officer. He doesn't have a ton of experience, especially on the road. He's got about a year on the road, but we're going to bring him in actually, I think starting next week after Christmas. Passed all of his tests and everything. So we'll get him going and get him training. He'll have training through January. And then if everything goes well, we'll kick him loose and let him kind of roll on his own. So very exciting. It's really challenging to hire police officers, especially right now. And so to find somebody who has Marion County connections and wanting to come back to Marion County, that's awesome. We're happy to have them. Got the KPP financial utility scorecard, and Brooke from KPP will be here to present to the council probably in January, maybe early February. Little bit better than it was in 19, moving in the right direction. We're still not great, and most of that has to do with our fund balances and kind of how we've got that stuff structured and transfers and how that's structured. That kind of kills us a little bit. And then also, we don't have a capital improvement program set up specifically for our electric utility. We're working on that, but we don't get any points for that. So we'll share that with you, and Brooke will come in and kind of explain that here in January or February. Got the KPP bill there for you. You can take a look at that. The surcharge is kind of what we're kind of eyeballing and making sure that that continues to move forward. We've collected $151,444.56, which is about not quite, a little over 70,000 less than what we've paid in surcharge, just because of the difference in time from when it started and when we actually put it on. Also got our health insurance savings report there for you. So we've saved through the first half of this plan year about $21,000 that's sitting in a bank account for us versus our fully insured model. So that's working pretty well. We've seen some interesting, it's really interesting when you get the data on this, because we don't get data because we're a group under 50. So we don't actually know what people used in our previous model. And now we kind of have a better indication. And so we know that we have people who use some pretty high dollar prescriptions. That's one thing that we know. And so maybe we can adjust how our benefits are structured to help cover those for people a little bit better, or change kind of how that works. So that's one of the benefits of having this model, is we actually get to see some of that data, which we normally do not. And then I also sent out something later this afternoon. Sorry for the lateness of it. I just wanted to respond a little bit to a couple of things that had come through. We had a couple of people, council folks, asked me some questions. I just want to make sure everybody had the same information on it. We talked a little bit last meeting about the 3rd Street replatting, and since then, it's gotten a little bit crazy with some of the speculation as to what that's going to look like. One of the things with that is the gentleman who's wanting to do the replat is wanting to use shipping containers in order to build these homes. So a more affordable home using the shipping containers, which, when you think about how one of them looks, you can go see kind of the ones over in the trailer park, and they're just one container on kind of high piers. And what they're talking about doing on Third Street would not be that. These would be on crawl spaces, and it'd be multiple shipping containers put together and engineered to be structurally sound and also to be more aesthetically pleasing. And what the developer has talked about is also putting in driveways and having room for garages that they wouldn't necessarily put those in themselves, but the homeowner would have an opportunity to do that. And so you're talking about two bedroom, 1 bath, or 3 bedroom, 2 bath homes that are actually fairly attractive. But they're not traditional homes, right? So they have an aesthetic to them that's pretty modern, which I can understand why the neighbors would be concerned about that. But I would suggest that, maybe we need to wait and see kind of what those look like before we make a lot of judgment.
Do they have, does the developer have some?
He's working on that. Yeah, they're working on getting that, because anytime they do multiple trailers together, multiple containers together, we have to see a stamped engineered set of plans for that, because that's what our building code requires.
Mhm.
The building code does allow shipping containers to be used as homes, but it does require that whenever you add more than one together. So that's part of the process. And then the replatting process, I will say that the planning commission has to hear that. So if anyone is concerned about that, and when we do get to that point, we do make all the notifications for planning or for a public hearing. So anyone who has property within 200 feet of that will get a notification. There's plenty of ample opportunity for them to have public comments or to come to learn about what this is. And then also, that the planning commission makes recommendations to the city council. So there's also an opportunity at the city council level in order to do that. We did talk about it at the planning commission meeting that we had last week. We just sort of touched on the issue because there's really no zoning restrictions. We consider this a traditional or within the residential code to build a house. And so, they didn't have a ton of disagreement with it. They're just waiting to see what happens with what the designs are. So I would just urge people to give it a chance and to hear it out. I completely understand the issues with maybe, feeling like they're going to negatively impact their property values and those type of things. But, I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to weigh those things out and have those conversations. We are very early in the process, and so it's hard to say what will actually end up happening. So that was one issue. And then we also had a couple questions about the EV chargers that we have. So we got those chargers from KPP through their program. We have one of them installed out here, and then the other one we're scheduled to do over at the museum at the visitor center. So right now this one's not hot, it's not live. One of the issues that, of course, you don't want people necessarily sitting there charging their vehicles for free, which I totally understand. One of the issues we have is that there's state law that kind of prevents us from charging those things because they have to be set up as individual utilities. That law is supposed to be addressed this legislative session, which could change that. And so if that does change, then we would have a lot more flexibility in setting up the charging or the charging for the electricity, if that's something we wanted to do. We really haven't had a ton of conversation. I think these were ordered 2 years ago, sometime in 19. So I don't have a lot of background as to what the conversation was at that point, but the intention of these is not so much for people who live in town to utilize them. It's more of a tourist type of thing where you set it up to bring people into town. If they have an electric car, you can set them up and they can charge. One of the things we've kind of talked about internally is, we can set timers on these things. We could easily say you only can charge from this point to this point, and it automatically shuts off. When you look at how people are charging for these in other locations, a lot of times they're charging a flat rate, which really isn't tied to the electrical cost. They're actually, the loophole there is that they're charging you basically to rent that space for however many hours. And so that's kind of how they've gotten around that. I don't know that that's something we want to get into much, but as far as what that actually looks like from a dollars and cents perspective on how much it would cost somebody to charge, I went and found some information about our chargers and kind of what the Tesla Model 3 is sort of the high end version of what's out there. So it would use roughly 24 kilowatt hours for a 4-hour charging period. The retail cost of electricity would be $2.87 if that was at your house. It'd be 79 cents for us. That's the wholesale cost. So, you know, we're not talking about a ton of money necessarily, but you know, it's something that I think we need to have that conversation about it. And so, you know, right now we've got one charger out there. It's not live. I think it would be good if we could figure out some kind of rules or how we want to do this. Some signage would be good too. Again, we're really gearing it toward bringing people in from the outside. It's not really set up to be, you know, Joe down the street bought an electric vehicle, now he wants to come out here and charge it all night. That's not the intention. So just want to put that out there. That's kind of the EV stuff. That's the conversation. I don't know, again, Mayor Lou may have some input as far as how we got the EVs and sort of what that process is, but
Well, again, the whole idea behind the 2 EV chargers from KPP was to promote Hillsboro being, you know, open to electric vehicles. And again, if somebody drives into Hillsboro with an electric vehicle and they need a charge, you know, right now there's nothing out there for anybody to charge a vehicle to. So it kind of prohibits people with EVs from visiting Hillsboro, which obviously we don't want to do. But you know, again, this idea that the city's setting up to give away electricity to everybody, you know, to give free, you know, where we have to pay for gasoline today, you know, you could just get the electricity free from the city. That's not, or never has been the intent from where I'm sitting to what these are about. Because, oh, you know, if you're going to have an EV, then you need to have your own EV charger at your house that's metered through your electric meter, and you pay for that. That's the way it works. Now we do have people with EV chargers in their home, and one of them came before the council to talk about his solar contract. But that gentleman has his own EV and his own EV charger that he sets up at home to charge, you know, which he gets the power primarily through his solar array. So, you know, that's really how that's supposed to work. You know, it's, again, you know, I just find it a little ironic that the first thing people jump to is, oh, we're giving away electricity, we're giving everybody something free. And, you know, it's not that. And, you know, if we're promoting tourism and we're talking about a couple bucks, you know, for a 4-hour charge, you know, our costs, I don't think we're giving away too much, you know, because in the grand scheme of things, I don't see cars lined up to be plugged into those anytime soon. So, you know, you know, I do have an expectation that our vehicle dealers in town are, you know, are probably going to be looking to get in this game. You know, I personally feel that living in rural Kansas, it's a challenge to think about running an electric vehicle, especially with the distances that most of us travel. You know, it doesn't seem to be commercially make sense at this point to me anyway, but who knows, you know, what could happen, what could come out of Washington, you know, we don't know. So, but I think, you know, in terms of Hillsboro being, having that flexibility and that availability, if somebody needed a charge, that we could do that. And I think there's definitely ways we can control, you know, that who's charging and how long they're using it for, you know, that's easily accomplished. But we're talking about 2 chargers, one at the visitor center at the museum and one out here to City Hall. So, you know, makes it available in the downtown area. And if people are going to charge their vehicle, that means they're going to be in town for at least 2 to 4 hours. So they're going to need to do something while they're in town. And hopefully they're going to shop at some of our stores and eat at some of our restaurants, I would hope. So, you know, as a community, we'd probably get our money back. Anyway.
that's all I had.
Yeah. Any questions or comments? Okay, we're back to our second public comment section. I don't know if we've had anybody additionally from the public join.
I'm pretty excited for January 4th to join you guys. So thanks for letting me sit in and listen in. So.
Well, appreciate your participation. I know for myself, it was extremely helpful to attend the meetings, to be up to speed, you know, when the when you raise your hand and take that oath of office. So we're looking forward to it as well. And we're going to miss Renee and appreciate very much your service. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that next time.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Any-
I've appreciated the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
you've done a great job. You've served the citizens of Hillsboro very well. So any other council comments? Let's go around. Brent,
Not tonight.
David?
Not now, no.
I looked up them container homes.
Yeah.
And some of them look really good. And some of them don't, depending on how they put them together, you know? So actually.
That's
I don't
true of
think
every
if they
home,
put 'em
isn't it?
together, yeah, it wouldn't look that bad, actually. I mean, they look pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Do a good job of it.
I was surprised, yeah.
The important thing with this thing is the gentleman wants to sell them, so, you
Yeah.
know, the market's gonna tell him if he's made a bad looking house, that, you know, he won't sell them, so, you know, I think it'll be okay, it just, we have to see kind of what it looks
You
like.
can make them look like a house, I mean, the way they.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Look pretty good.
I think too, if people know when things are happening, as far as when they could contribute their thoughts and ideas, I think that'd be important
Yeah.
too, for them to know, you know, make sure that's really out there when they do the replatting and all that stuff.
So let's make sure that, you know, when that's, when our next planning commission meeting is, let's make sure we obviously publicize that and, you know, again, hard copy correspondence goes out to the property owners and
In the
in that
area.
affected
Mhm.
area, but, you know, we'll make sure that we do a little extra in terms of
Make sure that they know,
people know.
they can contribute, they can give their thoughts and ideas.
I can see where they'd have concerns.
Sure,
Yeah.
I get
I
it.
mean, it just makes sense.
It's totally new, so, you know, it's kind of one of those things that how do you deal with it? And that's one of the questions we had for the developer was, you know, can you get these things financed? How are they taxed? You know, all these, there's a lot of questions. And so, you know, as he moves forward, I think he'll have to have pretty good answers, or else, you know, he may not get what he wants there.
Because people are gonna need to be able to borrow, and so there'll have to be the whole titling process and that, you know, and banks will have to have something that banks are willing to create a mortgage for, you know? And if they can't get mortgages, they're probably not gonna sell. But hopefully, you know, the front end piece is to get, you know, a good looking concept out there with, on the front side, and not have to be cleaning up something on the back side. And again, not to retoot the horn for our town development, but these are the kind of things that we'll be able to get an assist from Al and Rich on, especially Al with his construction experience, you know. And now that he's out of the business, he doesn't have any conflict of interest, you know, with anybody anymore. He's completely divested himself of his construction business, so we don't have to worry about that being an issue. Renee, did you have any comments?
No, not tonight.
Also might want to mention that Matt and I and Morgan Marler had our first Coffee with the Mayor podcast today that we're going to broadcast. It'll be out there pretty soon. And we talked a lot about some of the things that we talked about here, again, with the water rates and some of those things, and got some perspective from Morgan that I think people will find interesting. So at least I hope so. And we're going to continue to have those sessions and invite different people in to create opportunities to provide some education and some of the stuff. I know it's been interesting to me that we've had several people reach out and express concerns about the container homes, you know, for one, and some other things, and in the museums and a variety of different things. And, you know, what I'm always looking for when people reach out like that is, hey, what do you got that, you know, you're not pleased with this, but what might you suggest in terms of something, an alternative? Or maybe you'd like to serve on a committee, or maybe you'd like to serve on a board that would you know, where you could help us address these issues. And, you know, what I'm finding out is sometimes people don't want either of those things. They just want to express their concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and
That's a good way to
so,
put it.
you know, but the more, I think the more that we can educate people, the more we can provide information,
Exactly, yeah.
the bit, you know, the less likely there will be for people to misinterpret what we're trying to do, which is ultimately, again, attack our strategic plan, continue to make Hillsboro a progressive place. You know, it was pretty interesting, you know, when we were talking about the storm, you know, we didn't get a lot of physical storm damage in Hillsboro, maybe not as much as Marion got. I understand they had quite a bit of more tree damage where trees were literally uprooted and things.
They did have a lot of damage.
Than we did. But you know, the biggest thing that I think that we dealt with as a community was our internet outage. And you know, we were anybody that you know, again, I'm not a paid representative of anybody, but our fiber network that was installed in town never went down. And so again, I think that what that does say though is that having that in place again makes Hillsboro a much more attractive option for people when they're looking at our community. That's what I'm talking about. You know, consumers have a choice to choose whoever they want to use, and the good news is we have multiple options here in Hillsboro. There's not just one option, but we do have an option that's very resilient when it comes to events like this that I think is again makes us an attractive community. So we just need to keep working on those things. We just need to keep moving forward. But at the same time, I think, you know, one of the lessons I've learned here in the last couple of weeks was assuming that everybody knows what we know, has all the information that we have, you know, we sit around this table and talk about things. You know, we don't always talk about every detail, but, you know, we're provided in our packets a lot of information, right? That not all the public gets. It's not that they can't get it. I mean, it's public information, but I understand that people are not going to take the time always to go dig through that on ahead of time. So we just have to make sure we're doing a good job of communicating and being effective as best we can in that regard. So, because we need to keep moving forward. We can't move backwards. And, you know, I don't want to have Hillsboro be seen as a community that's not forward thinking and forward moving. So, and I don't think we are, you know, and I think the past, you know, the strength from the, you know, the respect for the past is put us in a good place to you know, to provide strength for the future. So with that said, any other comments, any other business to come before the council? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.